So today we're going to start the conversation with listening to this clip from John Mayer where he's talking about writer's block.
Writer's block is when the two people inside of you, the writer and the reader, when the reader doesn't love the writer, or when the listener doesn't love the player. And so, writer's block is not a failure to write, it is a failure to catch this feedback loop of enjoying what you're seeing and wanting to contribute more to it.
If you meet me, I'm gonna show you some of the dopest people in the world.
I'm gonna tell my son, man, a man is what he makes in this society. So you gotta go out there and you gotta dig oceans. You gotta build mountains and paint 16 chapters and create the next innovation and inspire everyone that you meet.
Give you that holy feel, hitting like holy feel, mixed with some golden.
So today we're going to be talking about writer's block or creativity block. I feel like writers are not the only ones that have blocks. Creatives of all shapes and sizes have blocks. Architects have blocks. Film writers have blocks. People that are at creative agencies have blocks. I imagine that doctors might have blocks, hopefully not during surgery, but there's all sorts of blocks that people have where it's just like, wow, I can't think, or I don't like the thoughts that are happening right now. When I look at that clip and hear John Mayer explaining about the duplicity of the mind and it interacting with itself, that is the place that I'm at when it comes to my perception and perspective of writer's block or creative's block, which I like to call it, is because when you can't write, when you can't think, when you can't be this imagined version of yourself, you really have to sit with these two versions of yourself, which may be the outer adult and the inner child. If you write something and you don't like it, you have to ask yourself the deeper question. Why don't you like what you've created? If you're in this universe that is so magical, which you are part of, which you are, you're in flow with it like a water drop that's going into the ocean. Why do you not like the nature of what you create? Or why don't you like the story that you're telling about yourself? You have to ask yourself these questions when it comes to writer's block. And I feel like a lot of people like to blame it on an outside source and call it writer's block, like it's something else or someone else, when it's what's happening inside of you, when it's your story. And there's a lot of trust issues that come up when it comes to creativity, when it comes to making something, when it comes to putting ideas out into the world. You have to trust yourself. And of course, you may have bad ideas, but you have to continue to go. You have to know that there's something on the other side of the horizon. You know, if you just start a drawing and there's one line and you already don't like that line, what is the rest going to look like? You have to put yourself in this positive state and practice of knowing that you're building, knowing that you're collaborating, knowing that this is just a piece of the bigger picture. So don't be afraid to come up with ideas that might not work. A book that can help with this process is Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. It's very famous for its morning pages where you wake up every single morning and you write 3 pages in your notebook. I tried it, I did it for a couple of weeks. Some things worked for me, some things didn't work for me. But one of the main takeaways that I got from it is that if I can't write, it's a bigger thing. Maybe there's something that I don't want to write about. Maybe I have a trust issue with myself and I'm scared to write something down because then I have to change it. Or then I have to adjust myself. Or then I have to talk to my father. Or then I have to talk to my mother or my girlfriend or talk to myself or change my relationships or actually listen to my boundaries. So there's reasons why we can't write. And creativity is so confrontational when you really jump into it. The practice of it is therapeutic, but in the sense that you're going to see your reflection when you create. You're going to see yourself. You're going to see your experiences. You might be introduced to your traumas. You'll be introduced to your joys as well. And don't let those hesitations stop you. You don't even have to show the world your creations, but the practice of creating and looking at your reflection is what creativity is. Creativity is an honor and a respect for the experiences that you have. So when you have these blocks, there's a few things that you can do. When you have these blocks, you could just stop. You don't have to make something right now. And the practice of knowing when to do and when not to do is creative. Another thing that you can practice is knowing when the spark hits. The spark is not always there. Sometimes you just have to go out and live life. Be free and let inspiration come to you. Life is so inspiring. And sometimes when you're so down in your notebook trying to create or come up with an idea, you're not actually experiencing inspiration. Inspiration's all around you. Inspiration is conversations with your family. Inspiration is conversations with yourself. Inspiration is silence. It's meditation. Inspiration may come in a conversation with God if you're religious. What is your inspiration? Ask yourself questions. If you take time to really sit and ask yourself questions and then try to answer them, you will be inspired by what you hold within your mind. At the end of the day, I do not believe writer's block. I do not believe creativity block. I just go out there and I try to detach myself from this idea of perfection. I'm going to make things that I like. I'm going to make things that I don't like. Art and success is subjective. When you're creating something, you're building a practice that's going to create confidence in you so you can trust yourself. My barber told me this today. He said that in his relationships, and creativity is a relationship, he realized that he had to actually forgive his mother before he could be intimate and vulnerable in a relationship. And he was taking out his insecurities and his unsolved issues with his mother in the relationships. Your relationship with creativity will be a reflection of your other relationships. And it'll serve you best to deep dive into your why. So purpose-based creativity is always essential because it's going to come knocking at the door. Your reflection is going to come looking for you. And using creativity as a practice to hone your relationships within yourself, with your inner child, and with people that you have relationships with is going to help you break through those barriers. Creativity is relationships. Creativity is honor. Creativity is surrender. Creativity is care. And these are the practices to get through and to break through any type of block that you have. Because it's not just writer's block. It's not just creativity block. There are emotional blocks. There are subconscious blocks. And as a digital mentor, as a friend, as a human being, as my mama's son, as a stranger, as Ramel, as Real J, as a community member, I have to remind us that these are not just creative blocks. Dig deeper and get to know yourself with your creativity. That's all I got for today. Read The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. It's a great way to get started if you want to get through writer's block. And also use creativity to dive deeper and to get into other blocks that you may have. Talk to your family members, and if you need somebody to talk to, whether that's a therapist, a really good friend, or someone to mediate those conversations, I wish you the best of luck. I am not a professional, but I beg you to reach out to a professional if you are comfortable with those situations. If not, pick up a book, get a friend, join a community, get yourself a digital mentor, look online, and find someone to hold you accountable to breaking through. And you can be that same thing for someone else. If you're a creative looking to break through blockages, hit me up. My Fridays are open and we can have conversations, and I'm here to help.
If you meet me, I'm gonna show you some of the dopest people in the world.
I'm gonna tell my son, man, a man is what he makes in this society. So you gotta go out there and you gotta dig oceans. You gotta build mountains and paint 16 chapels and create the next innovation and inspire everyone that you meet.
Give you that holy feel, hitting like Holyfield, mixed with some golden.